Well, better than expected results from Apple helped lift markets in the United States today. Its shares shot up by nearly 8% shortly after the bell rang. Apple's announced after the market closed last night that earnings rose by 7% and its revenue rose by 5% to $46 million for the quarter. Strong sales of iPhones in China and other emerging markets mean that Apple will make even more profits when it launches the next iPhone. Well, Apple impressed investors by buying back shares, which will reduce the number of shares on the market and raise the earnings linked to each one. Investors also cheered after it increased its dividend payout. But Apple is doling out more cash to its shareholders, partly because there's concern around slowing sales in the Western world and the pace of innovation. Apple reported sales of 43.7 million iPhones in the quarter that ended in March, far outpacing forecasts. But looking more closely, iPad sales fell by 16% from last year in the quarter that ended in March. And the technology giant's revenue growth has been stuck between 1% and 6% for the past year. Well, to discuss those results, we're now joined in Cape Town by tech analyst from Creative Spark, Michelle Atagana. Great to have you with us, Michelle. Are these glowing results, or are they hiding what could be a slow decline in one of the most innovative companies that we've ever seen?
Thank you so much for having me. So I think with Apple, it's always tricky whenever they announce their results, because we expect great things from Apple because it is one of the most innovative companies in the world. But what is evident by the results is that people prefer their smartphones. iPhone sales are up, iPod sales are down, and iPad sales are also down, because everything we do on our smartphone, everything we want to do, we can do on our smartphones. And those devices are devices that are just bigger screens for smartphones or different things we can do with smartphones. I wouldn't say Apple is declining. It's a solid company. It's richer than most countries around the world. I think they've just plateaued where you build products and there's interest in products, and now they're running a solid business. I mean, what they've done as well is they've split their shares now, which is pretty an interesting move, which means they want people to be able to afford their shares. So someone like you or I that don't earn billions of dollars a year can now afford Apple shares because they want to make it more accessible to people.
We're talking about phones, and you're talking about this move to phones, but isn't that where Apple is still vulnerable? Because Samsung's doing well and other rivals are introducing very cheap phones. There are concerns that a smartphone could become a commodity, and then will people still pay, do you think, for that Apple difference?
So what Apple's always done is make us want a certain lifestyle, and they're very good at making you want this luxury. Their sales in emerging markets have increased. I mean, Brazil, India, and Russia have gone up as well in this recent call. So for them, they are trying to conquer the emerging market, but Samsung was there first, Nokia was there first. I don't know if they're going to want to cheapen their brand to make it more accessible, but by splitting their shares and making their shares more accessible, maybe they will look at creating more affordable devices. But the whole point is to have a luxury iPhone. So would you want to buy a cheaper iPhone anyway?
Well, I have an iPhone, and now I see that the iPhone 6 has been leaked. And I remember a time when everybody wanted a smaller phone, but the unique thing here is the bigger screen. Is that what people want?
I think it's a problem that Nokia began, really, to be honest, because Nokia brought out the Lumia range with beautiful widescreen phones, and Samsung's got also big screen phones. And I suppose everyone expects Apple to bring out another bigger screen. I mean, the iPhone 5 gave you more screen real estate. But iPhone 6, whether it comes with a bigger screen or smaller screen, or if it's going to be wider or thinner, that still remains to be seen despite all the leaks. But do you need a bigger screen phone? I mean, what more do you need the screen for? What do you want to do? Watch movies? Which most people do. I mean, I know my phone does everything. I watch videos on there, I listen to music, I read books. So I think we're still trying to find the comfortable screen size for everyone.
You know, despite the screen size, I mean, that would just be a change. It wouldn't be a jump, these leaps that we've seen from Apple in the past. The CEO is hinting that they do have something up their sleeve. Do you think that Apple could knock our socks off again?
Well, if they released the iWatch, yes, they would, because wearables are in. And although Nike, just discontinued their fuel ban, but wearables are in. So if they bring out an iWatch, that'll be great, interesting innovation for them. If they bring out a device that does everything else that the device already does and then some, then that would be great. When you think about a smartphone, it's hard to really think of where the innovation is going to go next. I mean, what else can your smartphone do? It practically does everything now. I think what we're looking for from Apple next in terms of innovation is a different type of device or a different type of smart device that could do something else that we're looking for.
People have been talking about that watch. It would be interesting to see. I guess the big question that a lot of people are asking is can it keep up that innovation after Steve Jobs went? Because we know there is a structure. They do things differently. They look at what people want rather than the technology they have. Do you think that legacy will remain?
So Steve Jobs' Apple is different from Tim Cook's Apple. So Steve Jobs' Apple was almost a big company that behaved like a startup. It was maverick and it took incredible risks and just went like a bull in a china shop and just did everything and only went with what worked. Tim Cook is a businessman, so he's about balancing the checks and giving investors money and giving shareholders more money. So I think perhaps what we will see will be an Apple where they are a solid business like Microsoft is, a business that makes money at the end of the day, and innovation may or may not come the way we want it, but just because we don't see big products that are wowing us doesn't mean they're not innovating. Innovation can also come in small bits.
Well, the tech wars are always interesting. Thank you so much. That was tech analyst Michelle Atagana.